Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Acts chapter 17, verses 22 through 29, and I want to encourage you to talk about one of those things they tell us not to talk about, right? We're told that we should not discuss politics or religion, and I suggest that you should talk about religion. While you're at it, why don't you talk about politics too? No, no, no. The main thing we need to be discussing is religion. Now, what I'm going to propose to you is that you should be more inquisitive in your discussions with family members, with friends, with coworkers, and others, rather than being dogmatic, even though I would say you probably should be as far as firm in your own understanding of the essentials of your own personal spiritual beliefs. But that I think you should be inquisitive and you should be wondering what people around you think. What is their religious and spiritual beliefs? If you're not open to understanding and trying to comprehend why somebody believes what they believe, then you're going to be in a tough spot and probably never really going to be in a spot that you could accurately share Jesus Christ with someone. So I'm going to encourage you to discuss religion because that's exactly what the Apostle Paul does at the Areopagus, at the place right beside the Acropolis, the place beside the pantheon of gods here in Athens, the famous pantheon of gods that we think of, Zeus, Hermes, all the rest. There's going to be a big statue of Nike probably right in the back of Paul as he's making this speech to him. And the Athenians have grabbed him all together, all the smart, wise people, the Stoics, and these other philosophers, these PhDs, as I like to call them. They've gathered together and they're saying, Paul, we're not quite sure what you're talking about. We want to hear what you're saying. And it's quite obvious that Paul was inquisitive in paying attention to the gods that were around him. In fact, if you remember from yesterday's reading, the reason he's even in this spot is because he was provoked. His spirit was provoked, irritated, saddened by all the gods that were there in Athens. So Paul, here he is, standing in the midst of the Areopagus, said, Men of Athens, I perceive that in every way you are very religious. Here's our example to follow. Talk about religion. He perceives, he understands that they're very religious because of all the various idols that they have, all of the various gods that they worship. He sees that they are indeed very religious. And I think the way that you will understand the religion and the spiritual beliefs of other people is if you ask them. Verse 23, Paul says, For as I passed along and observed your objects of worship, notice it's more than one, I found an altar with this inscription to the unknown God. So it's almost like the Greeks, the Athenians, were making sure they weren't missing any god, making sure that they were worshiping every single god that they could think of and that they would know about. And if there was a god that they were missing, they wanted to make sure that they were worshiping that god as well. And so Paul says, What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you, because this unknown God is actually the one true God. Verse 24, the God who made the world and everything in it. That's what this unknown God is. You obviously don't know the true, real God, because he's the one who made the world and everything in it. Being Lord of heaven and earth, he does not live in temples made by hands. Of course, get the picture. If he's sitting here at the Areopagus, behind him is going to be the pantheon of gods, is going to be the temple where all of these statues are. And right behind him, you can almost see him pointing up there. This unknown God, he doesn't live in those temples made by man, nor is he served by human hands. No, because he's the God of the universe. He's the one actually serving us. He serves us by letting us breathe one more time, by giving us rain, by giving us sunlight, giving us everything that we have. Nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything. No, of course not. Since he himself gives to all mankind, life and breath and everything. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth. Paul is affirming that all the nations are from one man, from Adam and Eve, and they're also from Noah, having determined allotted periods and boundaries of their dwelling places. The boundaries of the ethnic groups has been determined by God. Those sovereign boundaries that have been put in place, and where particular people groups found themselves growing up, that was again determined by God. Why? Verse 27, the whole purpose of this is that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him. God's desire is that he be found by all of these nations. That's why Paul is here preaching to the Athenians, and this is why God has left himself a representative through a witness, not a representative, a witness through all of the ways that he's cared for him. Paul's going to explain that in just a moment. I'm hurrying because my battery's going to go out. Yet he is actually not far from each of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. And even some of your own prophets have said, for we are indeed his offspring. Being then God's offspring, we ought not to think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone. No, he has created everything himself, and he is not an image formed by the art and imagination of man. What he's saying is saying, no, God, we have been made in the image of God, since we are God's offspring, not in the sense of that that we are begotten by him, but in the sense that we are made in the image of God. That's what he means when he's saying we are indeed God's offspring. And these Athenians were also made in God's image as well. And so since we are made in the image of God, then God is nothing close to being like gold, silver, and stone, all the other gods and statues and idols that they had created to worship. So why don't you talk to somebody about religion, ask them what they believe, and have an inquisitive mind and heart to listen to them. I pray that's been a blessing to you, and I'll see you in the next video.